Well, one of the main differences between the Canadian Constitution and the American Constitution when it comes to our civil liberties and our fundamental freedoms is that the very first section of Canada's Charter of Rights describes the way in which governments can infringe upon our liberties, assuming that they will. The first paragraph of our charter says that there are limits that can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society, and only then, after that caveat, does it list the so-called fundamental freedoms, basically casting a pall on them. The American Constitution, by contrast, says that the freedoms are the center of the document, and any infringements have a high burden to overleap. I think that's one reason why not a single substantial challenge to lockdown laws in Canada have succeeded over the last 2 years, including shocking cases where you'd think it would be a slam dunk, like the airport detention centers where healthy people were detained for 3 days with no cause, no warrant. The Federal Court of Canada said that wasn't even a detention, let alone one that had to be justified under Section 1. Just incredible. By contrast, our American friends love liberty just a little bit more, and yesterday they saw the fruits of it. An important Supreme Court case striking down a national vaccine mandate. Very big news. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is our friend Jenin Younes, litigation counsel at the New Civil Liberties Alliance. What a victory, Jenin. I'm thrilled to hear it. Can you tell our viewers in Canada what happened in the United States yesterday in the fight for freedom?
Yeah, so the Supreme Court struck down the OSHA mandate. Biden had an executive order that basically implemented four different vaccine mandates. One is this one, the OSHA mandate, and that applies to private companies of 100 or more employees.
So just pause for 1 second. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Up here, I think folks won't know that OSHA, that's Occupational Safety and Health, right? That's basically a federal rule that governs workplaces, right?
Right, that's an agency, and so so it's an agency that governs workplace safety and enacts rules and regulations designed to, make workplaces safe for employees.
Oh yeah, I apologize for interrupting, but keep giving it.
Yeah. This was actually the biggest one. So this affected about 84 million Americans would be subject to this mandate. And then the other three were federal employees had to get the vaccine, federal contractors, and then healthcare workers. So the OSHA one, because, this was important because it was the biggest one. And basically what the court said was that OSHA was designed to address workplace hazards, not a disease that's sort of omnipresent in the world at this point. So, it's really about like getting access to a helmet if you're a construction worker, or making sure that the office where you spend 8 hours a day doesn't have asbestos. And one way in which the court drew a distinction was to say, well, you can't take your vaccine away at the end of the workday. It's still there. So this was a very important decision for liberty. I should be clear that this does not really create precedents for state mandates, which are usually based on sort of the state's 10th Amendment police power. And this was really about executive overreach. So this doesn't mean that all vaccine mandates are going away in the United States.
I saw a reference in the ruling to a tweet made by Joe Biden's chief of staff that this was a workaround, that making an executive order to tackle 84 million people was a workaround Congress, a way of avoiding that. Obviously, that caught the judge's attention, and it said, yeah, we know what you're doing here. I think that's what you're getting at when it was more a technical win. What were the other reasons that the court ruled this way? And can you tell us what was the division of the judges? Because quite often it's a very narrow decision. What was it? How many judges were for the mandates, and how many votes struck them down?
So it was only 3 were actually for the mandates. The ones who are considered the liberal branch of the court, that's Breyer, Kagan, and Sotomayor, who also made some shocking misstatements of fact at argument a week ago. For instance, Justice Sotomayor said something like that there were hundreds of thousands or 100,000 kids in critical condition from COVID, which is just absurd. That's not even close. But as far as other aspects of the decision that were important, well, the major questions doctrine played a large role. So that's a doctrine that says if Congress wanted something that's so big, this is so big that this affects so many people, it's going to have massive economic implications. Congress would have spoken directly to that. So you can't just read this authority into the OSHA statute. And so again, this was an important case for limiting executive overreach, for limiting agencies' ability to just do whatever they want and run roughshod over people's liberties.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.